Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. Thank you so much for watching and supporting and running on into Cottage afterwards to chat with me about your own gardens. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. A ton. Anyway, today, it's July, it's warm, so I found myself gravitating towards the shady garden and the most beautiful blooms on earth. Right now, I'm so excited about the Clematis because even though it's summer, even though it's warm, there are so many gorgeous varieties blooming right now. And there's one in particular I really have to tell you about. So watch and follow and let me know what you think about this beautiful Clematis. Let's dive right in. So let's talk about how you grow clematis here in gorgeous Zone 9B. I'm in Northern California. I'm in Petaluma to be exact. We are so lucky with our climate here. We get the coastal influence. Bodega Bay is only about 20 miles away as the crow or the honeybee flies. And we get fog a lot. This morning I woke up to some fog, burned off nice and early, but it keeps our temperatures a little bit lower than Zone 9Bs in Davis or Sacramento or Arizona. That seems crazy to me. Anyway, back to growing clematis here in Zone 9B, our Zone 9B. Even here with our coastal influence, we still get some heat waves, we still get some hot afternoon sun. So where you're going to want to grow your clematis is in afternoon shade. Even though some of them will say full sun, there are tricks to that. You're much better off and your life is way easier if you grow your clematis in afternoon shade. And by afternoon shade, you really want to avoid all those super hot sun rays, June, July, August, September, even into October a little bit around here. Meaning, once it's past 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're better off having that clematis in the shade. Now, there is a trick. If you really have to grow clematis in the full sun, make sure the bottom 3 feet of it are in cool shade. Grow boxwoods, grow something, mulch like crazy, make sure it's watered, and you can get away with it. But to me, why not make your life a little bit easier and make sure your clematis is shaded all afternoon long, and then you don't need to stress about whether the plants around it are shading it enough. Do you need to build a retaining wall? What do you need to do? I have a few gorgeous clematis at home in my house. One's climbing a tree, another one's doing. It's just really emerging and budding up right this second. Neither one of them get any sun whatsoever except for 2 to 3 hours in the morning. Now that could be delaying the budding up and blooming, but I'm super happy with it. Stress-free, gorgeous clematis, easy as can be. Now the varieties I grow at home, I love them all, but the one I'm going to share with you just a little while, I am beyond excited about it. I adore the color. Okay, so we've talked about where in your garden you need to grow it. In afternoon shade, the soil. You want really good, well-draining soil that's consistently moist. Clematis is not a drought-tolerant plant. It is not a plant that wants to be neglected for weeks on end during a hot summer. It's just going to fry, it's going to look horrible, and no, you don't want to do that. Good drainage is important, regular moisture is important. Feeding is important, and you're going to be feeding it a couple of times a year, a couple or 4 times a year minimum, to make sure that you get all that growth and all those blooms out of it. And I'll tell you in just a minute when you're going to feed it, because I can't wait any longer. I got to show you this plant. Here it is. This is Negritjanka. I have such a hard time saying the name, but look at the color of the flowers. Now, I do have my favorites. I love Boulevard Samaritan Joe. It's super bloomiferous and so pretty. I've got other videos about that out there. But look at this one. This is the one that I am taking home with me this week. I'm going to find a really perfect spot for it where I come across it regularly, because this color, it's indigo, dark indigo blue, purple, and it's so spectacular. And some of the blooms have 5 petals, some have 4, and the anthers in the middle, can you see that? Little golden anthers in the middle. It's so pretty. Now, I do get to pick out every single clematis that I grow here at Cottage Gardens. And believe me, when it's time to go through the catalogs and to look at the new ones, it's torture. It is so torturous. But I have to narrow it down to my favorites. And what am I going to bring home? And what do I want to see in my own garden? That's how I pick almost every single plant here at Cottage. This one was irresistible from the get-go. Now, it is a Viticella hybrid, and if you don't know what a Viticella is, those guys are the ones that can actually tolerate a little bit more sun. So if you do have that iffy location that gets more sun that you'd be happy with, then you'd think most clematis would be happy with, try a Viticella hybrid. Try Negritjanka, because this color is so stunning. A few others in the Viticella family that are wonderful: Polish Spirit, Etoile Violette, Julia Coravant. There's some other really, really lovely ones, but this one I think is the winner, for me anyway. This one has 6 petals, so there's 4, there's 5, there's 6. I like a plant that offers surprises. I like, you know, if you've watched me for any amount of time, you know how much I love Coco Loco Rose, because the bud is one color, the bloom is another, the spent bloom is a whole other color. So that is a rose bush full of surprises. Well, Negritjanka, even though the bloom color is all beautiful dark indigo blue, the number of petals, that's where the surprises are to me. And I absolutely find this plant irresistible. Even the shape of the buds. It's very typical clematis bud shape, but they're a little more petite and a little more drawn out than many of the other varieties. So I can't wait to see what this guy is going to do in my garden. All right, how big does Negritjanka get? It gets to about 10 to 12 feet in a single season. Now, like all clematis, it doesn't do that right off the bat the minute you bring home a 1-gallon plant. It takes a couple of years to really achieve that. But year 1, planting this, you'll probably get about 6 feet of growth out of it and a ton of blooms. This is in a 1-gallon pot on a 3-foot tall bamboo stake. And I'm counting on this plant alone 8 blooms and 3-4 buds. Absolutely stunning. So picture a trellis or a pergola or a tree or a rose bush that is twining through with a 10 to 12 foot version of this and all the blooms that you're going to get. Oh my goodness, unbelievable. So to get all those blooms, to get all that growth, what are you going to want to do? You are definitely going to want to stay up on the feeding and the pruning. So in the beginning of the year, I'm going to talk about feeding ahead of the pruning, but I'm going to link them back in. So just stay with me here for a second. In the very beginning of the year, January or so, tail end of winter, before it starts warming up here in beautiful Zone 9B, you're going to want to prune your Negritjanka and all your other clematis, except for the Montanas and the evergreens. You're going to want to prune them back to a pair of buds right around 18 inches to 2 feet. Now, when I say a pair of buds, this clematis right here has been pruned back to a pair of buds. The buds are really tiny, but once new growth starts emerging in late January, early February, it's going to be really obvious to you. But look, pruned back about 1/4 of an inch above a pair of buds. That's what you do in late winter. Here in Zone 9B anyway, you go, and if you're anywhere else in the country or the world, talk to your local people and find out exactly what you want to do. But general rule, late winter, prune back to a pair of buds between 12 and 18 inches, 2 feet from the ground. At that point, you're going to want to feed your clematis. And at this time of year, you're going to give it a time-release fertilizer that is well balanced. 16, 5, 10. What you want is those even numbers. You want an equal amount of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, because you want to get your clematis off to a great start. You want new roots, new growth, new foliage, and new blooms. That is the whole point of a clematis. Now that the weather is ever so slightly warmed up, you're going to see a lot of new growth. Clematis climbs in a really super cool way. They use their little leaf petioles, those little leaf petioles, to turn and grip onto more of the leaves. So they climb through rose bushes really beautifully. They climb through other airy shrubs beautifully. They climb up our trellises really beautifully because they're all 1/4 inch gauge wire. So it's absolutely perfect. But you can build your own trellis out of anything that is small enough for the clematis to grip, and then just watch it climb. I have one clematis at home trained up a very boring tree, and that has made that tree quite exciting. As soon as it starts blooming, I will share photos of that one. So that's your first feeding of the year, late winter, late January, early February, something like that. So when you start seeing it all budding up and ready to bloom, then you're going to want to feed it again because it's put out a ton of growth for you. You want to keep up that growth. You want those blooms to open up. You want your clematis to be happy. So at this point, another dose of well-balanced fertilizer. Back to the time release. Let me just tell you about that. You are setting yourself up for success right there because it doesn't work instantly. The soil needs to warm up a little bit before the plant starts growing, and that's when your time release fertilizer starts really working too. I love the EV Stone Organics all-purpose for that reason. Osmocote's great too, but find your favorite fertilizer and go for it. So now when it's all budded up and ready to bloom, you're going to feed it again, and then just watch it take off and give you the best show that you can possibly imagine. They are so delightful, and May and June are their prime blooming seasons. That's why I'm so delighted. Here we are in July, and Negritjanka is stunning. But so if you play your cards right, you can have clematis blooming in your garden for months and months and months on end. So as soon as your clematis has finished blooming and you're seeing all those puffy little seed heads, then it's time to prune it again. You're going to prune it back by half this time. So if your Negritjanka has reached its full 12 feet already, prune it back to 6 feet, right back to those pair of buds that we talked about earlier. Clean it up, take out any dead growth, check out all the messy leaves that might be on it, because that is really, really normal, nothing to be concerned about. Pushed out a ton of growth. What you're going for is fresh new growth anyway. So clean it up, feed it again, and at this point you want to give it bloom food. Lower on the nitrogen, higher on the other two, because you're going to get a whole other display of stunning blooms by doing this. Now this works for most clematis, definitely works for the Viticella types, early flowering types too, and you're going to get a whole other flush of blooms late in the season, September or October. Who doesn't want more clematis blooms? Seriously. So yeah, there's the feeding. The only other feeding that I would suggest is in late fall. And for that, you're really just going for compost. You want to dress the soil all around the roots of your clematis with a layer 2 to 3 inches deep of good organic compost or soil booster or your favorite compost blend. Steer manure is good too, but it has to be composted. And honestly, I find it a little too high in nitrogen, so go for a good, well-balanced compost. All right, hey, what are you going to want to grow once you've planted your beautiful Clematis Negritjanka? What are you going to want to grow with it? Well, I've picked out some plants that I absolutely love, and I'll tell you why. First off, they are all shade lovers. Every single one of these wants the exact same growing conditions as any of these gorgeous clematis, specifically this one. So I picked these particular plants because let's start with Campanula Blue Waterfall. As if I'm going to do a blue garden, which I might. This is a great little ground cover that isn't the exact same blue by any means, but draws your eye down, and it just spills and cascades and graceful and airy, just like Negritjanka. Another plant that I really want to show you, and what I love about this is Carex Feather Falls. It's an evergreen grass, likes the same kind of soil conditions, same kind of exposure conditions as Negritjanka. What I like about it is it's almost the exact same colors, the anthers inside each bloom, and I really am enjoying that kind of contrast. It's pretty exciting. And then we got Brunnera Jack Frost, very, very reliable shade-loving plant that in the spring has these little blue flowers. Again, going with the blue theme. This is a heuchera, a coral bells, and it's black forest cake. Now this is not in the same color scheme as the other ones, and this poor little guy got a little too much sun recently, but you can see it's very vivid, very dramatic foliage, complements the color of the blooms, because this bloom is pretty dramatic, pretty vivid. So look at this, I love it. And then just to complete the picture, I've got an ajuga. They've come up with some great ajugas. It's also called bugleweed. Fantastic, reliable. I would have said boring years ago, but my goodness, they've come up with so many varieties. It is no longer boring at all. This one is Burgundy Glow. I wouldn't call it burgundy exactly, but the foliage is sage green, little touches of white to it, and little touches of magenta. Magenta glow is really what I would consider. And then it does have these cute little flowers too, but the contrast is perfect. This is evergreen, just like the carex. This is kind of dies back a little bit in the winter, but can't you just imagine a really great shade garden populated with all of these fabulous shade-loving plants? So there you go. I hope you like this video. I hope you've just fallen in love with this gorgeous Clematis, Negritjanka, as much as I did. And I hope you have fun in your shade garden. It's summertime. You need to get out into the shade. You can garden as much in the shade as you can in the sun, and it is just as rewarding. And just imagine on a hot summer day, sitting outside in your shade garden, enjoying these gorgeous blooms. So drop by Cottage Gardens anytime and check out these plants in person. Don't just take my word for it. Come on by, check them out, and make sure you wander everywhere. We have so much shady stuff here. You might decide you like something entirely different. If so, make sure you let me know. So tell me, what is your favorite shade plant and why? And then find me Facebook, Instagram, all the usual spots. Most importantly, come on in. Say hi at Cottage Gardens of Petaluma. In the meantime, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful week, fabulous time in your garden. See you next time. Happy gardening.